Okay. Good morning, everyone. Just got back from the gym. Wanted to hop on here and give you guys some really practical tools for tomorrow. If you're celebrating Thanksgiving. If you're not celebrating Thanksgiving, you can take these tools and use them really before any situation where you think that you might overeat and you might not feel great. Now, I just want to back up and say, most of you who are here have been with me for quite some time and follow along with my work and what I do. If you're new to me, I want to say very, very clearly, I do not push any type of weight or body whatsoever, right? So while my tips tend to be for my community who struggles with weight or would like to lose weight or like to change their body shape, etc., people will hear me say all the time, your goals are entirely up to you. I don't care what they are. All I care about is you finding a healthier and happier relationship with your body and with food and food choices and all of those things. So if it sounds like right now I'm talking a lot about, how to not gain weight over the holidays or to prevent holiday weight gain and all of that stuff, just know that wherever you are on your body image journey, for me, it's never about the weight, the number on the scale. As people who've been with me for quite some time know very well, weight is just a symptom. Weight is just a symptom, which means weight is just an outcome of something else that's happening. And that's a very, very blanket statement. So before you at me with all of your, personal responsibility things, just so you know, there are biological, psychological, socio-emotional, genetic, all kinds of context for weight being a symptom. But truly, I'm not worried about the number on the scale. I'm worried about your emotional relationship to food choices, weight, your body, etc. Okay, so just a little backstory there. And for those of you who are, most of my community has a lens towards maintaining, managing, or perhaps losing weight. Wherever you are, these tips, tricks, and tools are for you, right? So it's less about the actual weight. In fact, it's not at all about the actual weight and more about your relationship with it, your process for how you choose food, when you choose food, why you choose food, etc. Okay, that's my disclaimer. So today, the focus is on the tangible tips, tricks, and tools that you can use, whether it be Thanksgiving tomorrow or any time that you're about to go to an event where you think, gosh, I really don't want to leave this event feeling bad because I've overeaten. What do I do, right? Okay. You'll see a lot of, it's funny, this time of year, as you know, is the time of year where all of the experts and all of the influencers, including myself, are coming out and talking about food and, should you eat whatever you want on Thanksgiving? Should you keep tracking on Thanksgiving? Should you not feel bad on Thanksgiving? Should you, and everybody has their own opinion on what you're supposed to do this time of year because they are the quote expert. Here's my view, and here's what I know from 20 years of doing this with thousands of clients, is that whatever you choose to do tomorrow, if you're celebrating Thanksgiving, whatever you choose to do, I want you to make that choice from a place that feels good to you. And this is a practice, this place of feeling good, I call it feeling alignment, right? This place of feeling good actually is a practice. It's a muscle we need to flex because we have such knee-jerk rules and regulations from years of dieting in the diet industry, and we're following people's shoulds all the time, right? And every time we follow someone else's should, we get further away from our own and what feels right for us. And by the time people get to me, man, they don't even know what they want to do. They don't even know what's right for themselves. So we have to spend a lot of time untangling that. So whatever you choose to do tomorrow, as I have been saying the last couple of days, my invitation to you is to focus in on how you would like to feel after the day, not during the day, after the day. How would you like to feel after the day closes? And people usually tell me things like, I want to feel confident or peace or gratitude or filled up or joy. I want to leave the day feeling like, oh, that was really lovely, right? Now, don't get me wrong, there's other things other than food that are going to play into whether or not you feel those emotions. But as far as the food is concerned, how do you want to feel? And then we work backwards from that feeling. Okay, so what do I tangibly do on the day? What you tangibly do on the day starts now. So we are on Wednesday, the day before, and I want you to start thinking about how you would like to show up and how you would like to be tomorrow. This is called mental rehearsal. And it's a really, really powerful tool. From research, we know that the more you practice or envision or anticipate your actions on any given day, the more likely you are to follow those actions. Now, this isn't a prescription, meaning I don't want you to run through your day tomorrow and then expect yourself to do it exactly like that. That's not the point of mental rehearsal. The point of mental rehearsal is so that you are more likely to not get carried away on the day than you would be if you didn't do any preparation at all. Okay. So when I talk about mental rehearsal, what I mean by it's not a prescription is that if you have a vision for how you want tomorrow to go, that's not your prescription for how it has to go. And then if it doesn't go that way, you have failed. That's not how mental rehearsal works. Mental rehearsal just cues up your brain. It cues up your brain ahead of the event in order to recall how you might like to behave during the event. So here's how this works. I want you to think about, I invite you, I don't want you, right? I invite you to think about what tomorrow might be like. Do you know what type of food is going to be served? Do you know if there's going to be appetizers and hors d'oeuvres around? Do you know if there's going to be dessert afterwards? With the information that you know, and by the way, if you don't know the information, it's absolutely appropriate to ask and say, hey, what are we looking forward to tomorrow? What are we enjoying tomorrow? I can't wait to, hear about the menu. And ask if you don't know, right? Get as much information as you can. So you can anticipate, oh, okay, there's going to be these 10, 15 things, and that's what's going to be on order, right? And then I want you to mentally rehearse, how do you want to be? What would you like to do? How would you like to handle being there tomorrow with these 10 things on order, right? And again, it's not a prescription. So it's not like you're saying, I will take a fourth of a slice of pie and I will take a quarter cup of beans. It's not like that. It's just, I want you to think through what might feel good to you, right? What are the things that you really, really enjoy that you want to prioritize? What are the things that you're kind of meh about that you'll say, okay, I'll have a little less of those. How do you want your plate to feel when you sit down to dinner? Do you want it to be really, really full of all kinds of things? Do you want it to feel like it has just a few things on it? Just run through it in your mind, not because it's your prescription for what you want to do, but because tomorrow, when you're faced with all of the foods and the food is pinging the parts of your brain that always want high energy density food, which I'll talk about in a minute. When all of the food is pinging those parts of your brain, it's harder to recall, wait a second, what do I want to do here? If you have rehearsed it mentally, if you have a vision of it, if you have some idea of it from the day before, you are more likely to choose in accordance with that vision than you would be if you just throw all caution to the wind and say, I'll get whatever I get tomorrow, okay? So again, it's not a prescription. It's not rules. It's not for you to say, oh, I'm not allowed to have that because it wasn't in my vision yesterday. It's just the intention is to call up more readily, more easily how you would like to be on the day. Okay. When we are faced with hyper palatable food decisions, and that's essentially what most of Thanksgiving is, right? Even if we have mashed potatoes, there's usually a lot of cream and butter in them. When we've got, sweet potatoes, there's marshmallows and brown sugar in them. And these are all delicious things, right? But it makes them hyper palatable foods, meaning it Many, if not all of those foods bypass your brain's natural reward mechanisms that tell you, hey, I've had enough, or that's good. And it bypasses those natural reward mechanisms and encourages you to eat more of them. So we are up against hyperpalatable foods tomorrow. It's okay. It's, this is not the end of the world. It's just something that we want to be aware of. When we are in the face of a bunch of hyperpalatable foods, it's much harder to make decisions in line with our goals or alignment because the brain is misfiring. Essentially, it's hijacked by the hyperpalatable foods. So one of the tools that we use to combat that is mental rehearsal. And again, it doesn't mean you're going to do it perfectly, but it does mean that it is much more likely that you will choose differently than if you didn't try and rehearse at all. So in a study, and I'd have to pull up this study to remember the exact details of it, but I'm going to oversimplify it for you. When people mentally rehearsed and then were in a situation where they were faced with hyperpalatable foods, those people naturally ate less than the people who did not do any mental rehearsal before they went into the situation. Okay, so mental rehearsal is tool number one. Another tool you can use when you get to wherever you're going is to survey your landscape. So again, when we show up to somewhere or when we, are called for dinner and we're faced with all the choices, that's when the hijacking of our system happens, right? Because our eyes get wide of all these hyperpalatable choices. They're all going to taste really good. And when I tell you that the brain is constantly looking for what I said earlier, which was high energy density foods, what that means is your brain is scanning the environment for the foods that are going to have the most calorie content, that have the most mouth and pleasure feel. So things that are hyperpalatable, that have the most calories in them, that your brain really, really likes. Okay. And it's always looking for that when it's faced with a lot of food decisions. So it is going to cue you and trigger you to have, a little more of this and a little more of that, because that's what the brain wants. It's from an evolutionary biology perspective, that's the thing that kept us alive. It's, whatever had the most bang for our buck, right? If there was a cheeseburger back in the hunter-gatherer days, that would keep us alive and around for much longer than a head of broccoli. So it's always going to cue you to those hyperpalatable, high caloric foods. So if you just walk with your plate up to your Thanksgiving meal, your brain is going to tell you that it wants all of the hyperpalatable foods. So one of the things you can do is be really intentional as you're called to dinner, or maybe you sit down to dinner, or, whatever the case may be, is to survey what's on order, what's on display first, and start making some intentional choices and say, wow, I really love the yams are my favorite, and the turkey is my favorite, and the gravy is my favorite. So I'm going to focus on these things that I really, really love. And while I can always eat a roll, because my brain is always going to tell me, ooh, yeah, that's really good, bread and butter or something, that's less desirable to me. So I'm going to spend a little less time there. So all it is making intentional, connected choices when you're in the face of all of the choices presented in front of you. Okay. We know a lot about the way people choose food from a buffet standpoint, right? So when people are faced with lots of food choices, we end up eating more than we normally would. That's the way that our brains work. They want to consume all of the calories that are in front of you. So knowing that, we want to go in there, take a look at all of the choices, decide which ones feel really important to you, and then stay connected to how much, right? Do I want just a little bit of this and a little bit of that? And the thing is, I have found for many of my clients who decide to take just a couple of bites of things because they want to taste things, you still fill a pretty full plate with a couple of bites of everything, right? And the brain wants to go, oh no, that's not enough, those couple little bites. But when you take little bites of everything, well, now you have a really full plate. Okay. So skill number one, mental rehearsal. Think today about what you might want to choose tomorrow and rehearse in your mind, getting a plate that feels really nourishing or really aligned for you. Number two, when you're in the environment, survey the area and take a look at what feels like you want to make a priority, and put those things on your plate. Number three, your tool number three is to try and stay connected during your meal. Try and stay connected. And what that means is to ask yourself, am I full? Am I still hungry? Do I feel like I need more food to feel nourished? Do I feel like I'm just picking at food because it is there? Do I feel like I have to finish my plate? Today is not the day to tomorrow, Thanksgiving, is not the day to completely overhaul your relationship to food, but you can stay connected and ask yourself, does this still feel nourishing to me? Does this still taste good to me? Do I still need more food in this moment? And just listen for the answer. Most of my clients end up feeling this subtle shift when they've had enough food but keep going. They can feel the shift emotionally in their body when they do that. And they say, oh, I think I'm done here. Okay. So the third tool that you can use is to just stay connected and keep asking yourself if you feel like you need more. All right. Or if you've had enough. Finally, what I want to say, because I'm going to spend tomorrow when I come on talking about gratitude. But so this is the end of your sort of practical, tactical tools for tomorrow. What I want to say is, no matter what happens tomorrow, no matter what you do, no matter what you eat tomorrow, it is not going to change the course of your overall relationship to food, okay? No matter what you do. So give yourself a little bit of grace. Use some of these tools. Try to connect in. Try to feel what feels good to you. Try to see if you can act in alignment. And if you go off the rails tomorrow and you eat whatever you want and you come home and you don't feel great, we'll start again. We've got a lot of time, right, to start again. In fact, every day is an opportunity for you to start again, making decisions in line with what makes you feel good about yourself. So again, here's what I want to remind you is that what I'm talking about here is that there's no right or wrong decisions about food. There's no good or bad decisions about food. There are only decisions that lead you to a place where you don't feel great afterwards, or there are decisions that lead you to a place where you feel more empowered and embodied and aligned. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about when I say, waking up on Friday not feeling great about your decisions. It wasn't because you chose wrong. It was because you might have made decisions that didn't make you feel empowered and like the highest and best version of yourself, okay? So no matter what you do tomorrow, please know that it is not going to be the thing that makes or breaks your entire life or relationship around food. So take a little bit of pressure off. If you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself tomorrow to do things perfectly, know that this one moment in time is not going to be the thing that makes or breaks it. Okay. So more than anything, enjoy yourself, enjoy your family, enjoy your loved ones, enjoy whatever it is that you are doing. We're going to talk a lot tomorrow about finding that gratitude. Okay, everyone, I will see you tomorrow morning to say a quick hello and happy Thanksgiving to you all. If you're celebrating Thanksgiving, before we send you off to have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow.